Good morning. Welcome to True North. How's everybody? I'm Renata Marino. How's everyone? Happy early St. Patty's Day. Obviously, I'm sporting my green. I hope everyone's well. Um, I am not Irish, although I grew up in Needham, Massachusetts, in Boston, in the late 70s, early 80s, with predominantly all Irish Catholics. I was one of three Latin families back in the 70s and 80s. Literally, I can name them. They're still friends of mine. Um, my dad's Mexican. If people know that I have dual citizenship. I'm Latina. I was born in the U.S. though, but lived in Mexico City for several years when I was little. Barely remember, but it was definitely a different lifestyle. My dad's Mexican. Excuse me. He got his medical. He's a doctor. He got his medical degree in Mexico City. He followed the footsteps of my grandfather, my abuelo, and became a urologist. My abuelo was the urologist for the Mexican government. All the people in the Mexican government. So a pretty well-known guy, and the whole rationale for my dad was going to take over that role. And he really upset the family by being the first one of generations to leave Mexico. And I don't know much about it, but I know there was some almost like not dissension, but the family was upset. But the rationale was this: he did his residency in Yale New Haven Hospital, and that's where he met my mom. And I know the whole story. It was a very romantic story. They're yin and yang, which is amazing. She's the Spitfire. He's kind of the chill. And she noticed of all the doctors in the hospital, he was the most kind. She noticed him at his bedside manner, like when someone's sick, like in the hospital, he would, a lot of doctors were very like curt, like let's just get the job done. But he had that element, but he had more of an empathy where she noticed he put his hand on one of the patients when they were, I think they were dying or whatever. She noticed the kindness from my dad, and that was her. She found out that it was his birthday. This is such a great story. She didn't even know him. Like he was pretty much a mute. Like he doesn't talk, and English was second language, right? So she found out that it was his birthday. So she baked him a cake and left it in the nursing station. They have like a nursing station. That's where all the nurses went to smoke. Apparently my mother smoked. And my dad. I find this stuff out later, And so that long story short, he wanted to thank her for the lovely gift, the cake. Thank me for the cake. Anyway, he took her out, and that's history. But bottom line, he was invited. First of all, they moved to West Roxbury, Massachusetts, and I think that's where I was born. I was born in the West Roxbury, and then the goal was they literally drove back to Mexico, and he was working there. So what happened was, apparently back then, everyone knows this, in the 70s and 80s, there was an influx of Latinx all into the U.S. I mean, literally. And there were so many patients that didn't speak English. And so they needed more doctors spoke both languages to service these patients. So my dad was invited back to Boston, and specifically in Needham. There was a hospital that was growing called Glover Memorial Hospital. And then it was eventually bought by, I think, Deaconess, which is a big hospital in Boston. But anyway, don't quote me on this. But anyway, he was invited to open up his own practice, and that he opened up, literally shared a third floor of a building. I think it was on Chestnut Street in Needham. Oh my God. No, the Chestnut building I forgot what street it was. Great Plain? Is it Great Plain? I can't remember. But it's a Chestnut building. And I remember he shared it with another Latin doctor, that building. And that's how I kind of hung out. But anyway, I went to a parochial school until 6th grade, and then an all-girls Catholic school from 7th grade to 12th grade. So 12 years of Catholic school. But I had lived in Mexico after I was born for about 5 years until I had to go to kindergarten. And so I've got a couple stories. So I remember going back for kindergarten and I was in gym class. I just remember this so clear. And my mom was there and they were playing dodgeball or something. And like, I think entered in like mid-year or something. And I was trying to play and I was speaking Spanish to all the kids and they were looking at me like I was strange. It was so uncomfortable. I'm like crying because nobody's paying attention to me and I'm speaking Spanish. My mom's like, no, you need to switch to English. I remember that day. Because I was confused. And I think that's the day that, it's just so funny. It's just so funny what you remember. And then anyway, flash forward to 5th grade in St. Joseph's School. I remember it was St. Patty's Day or right around St. Patrick's Day. And all my friends, all my Girl Scout friends, my Troop 4040, they're all Irish. Catherine, Don, you guys, I don't know if you're listening, Marguerite, they were all, they're my friends. I love them. And shout out to them because I miss them and love them and really want to reconnect and have a reunion of our Troop 4040, which we had an amazing troop leader, Ellie Devlin. She's a badass. And actually, this relates to the subject for today, which is enough is enough. And I'll get to it in a minute. But anyway, I remember, speaking of St. Patty's Day, the teacher's like, okay, who here knows Irish step dancing? This is 5th grade, guys. We had our uniforms, like the plaid uniforms. And all my Girl Scout friends are raising their hand. And I felt so left out. It was the only, me and Maria Paz Gesmir, she's Chilean. And I'm, Mexican. And I'm like, I felt so left out and I raised my hand. And I went up. All right, well, everybody who knows like Irish steps, come up to the front. You're going to do a jig. Guys, I literally got up there, had no idea what I was doing. I was just looking to my side. I'm like, I'm just going to copy them. Because I didn't want to be left out. I'm telling you right now, when you are the minority and you are a little kid, can I tell you, it's hard to be not in the in crowd. Do you know what I'm saying? It's hard to, at that age, to feel different. That's how I felt. My friends were very nice. They weren't mean to me. They were inclusive, but you want to be part of it. You want to be, I never took Irish step dancing, but it's really hard. Some of my friends' kids do it. And I'm like, it's a hard sport. It's very competitive. It's a very competitive sport. And actually I'm going with my friend. She actually is my, she's on the Blazing Babes administrative team. She has helped me with all our stuff over the past couple of years, but her kids do competitive Irish step dancing. I'm going to go with her to see her kids perform, which is amazing. But anyway, enough of that Irish. It's because I'm wearing green. I never wear green. But today's topic is about when is enough enough. And I have an example for this mug. Let's see, this mug is a Disney mug. My son got me this mug when he went with his dad last year to Disney when Disney opened up. After COVID, they opened up, and I forgot what percentage it was, and they went, which was great. My kids were so happy, but they were shopping, and my son knows I do my early morning talks for the past, I don't know, over 2 years. Not here, just recently. I've moved to a podcast, but I was doing it on Instagram, and he's like, Mom has coffee every morning and does her talk, so she would love this. So how thoughtful is that, right? But anyway, this morning I was talking to my son, who's 13. He plays tennis. We had an episode on Saturday with his coach. He does group lessons every week, and then he does a private lesson. So, this topic is when is enough enough? Okay. And this is what I'm talking about, guys. And this is so not arbitrary. This is so dependent on the situation and also depends on your tolerance level and what is happening. But I want to open up the discussion. I want to open up this topic. I want to actually talk about this topic numerous times because this topic can be applied to relationships and marriages. This can be applied to coach player dynamic. This can be applied to friend dynamic. This can be applied to the workplace, employee-employer dynamic, which I'll talk about that as an example of what happened to me. And, obviously sexual discrimination, unequal things that happen in the workplace. Like, when is enough? When is things inappropriate and when is it appropriate? Like, what is the fine line in any relationship dynamic? Okay. And so I overheard this was on Saturday. I overheard the coach. I'm standing there watching. No one else is around. And my son was having trouble with his forehand, and he had picked up a bad habit. The coach had been working with him on all this, and his strokes were great. And all of a sudden, like, there was something where the bad habit was it would just made him not be able to hit a clean shot, right? So the coach was trying to self-correct my son, and I knew what he was doing, but his tone of voice, he was getting very frustrated with my son. And so I heard him say, like, you're not listening or whatever. And my son's listening. Okay. So first of all, there's so many things going on. First of all, I could tell that my son was about to, like, lose it in terms of crying. He's like me. He's very sensitive, empathetic, absorbs everything, wants to please, wants to excel, gets frustrated when it's not working. And then when he gets, the negative, he just shuts down. I know this well because I know my son. So I knew that, like, in the car, he's just going to cry, like, or tears. He's going to have tears. Okay. I hope he did. And there's nothing wrong with tears, but I was prepared, and then as a parent, I'm like, should I intervene here? Like, not right then and there. Like, I'm not going to embarrass my son. I don't want to, like, create any kind. That's inappropriate. Like, some parents would. I wouldn't do that. I think it's obnoxious. But privately, do I ask my son, is it okay? Like, do I acknowledge that I think his tone was inappropriate? And do I ask my son, is it okay if I go talk to the coach? Should I do that? That's one option. Number two, because I felt it was inappropriate. But then again, guys, okay, when I was 13, when I took private lessons forever, oh my God, forever. But when I was 13, because I was played since I was like 5 and 6. But when I was 13, I remember June Ferenstein was my coach, my private coach. I took private lessons and I took team tennis, whatever. And I played, was it NELTA tournaments? I don't know if they call it now. It was like part of the USTA. It's New England. It's the New England group. But anyway, I remember she was yelling at me. I think my mom was watching, or maybe my mom wasn't. No, my mom wasn't watching. She was playing. It was being by myself with the coach. When you're alone with the coach and she's yelling at me because I was hitting the ball flat. That was the summer I learned topspin. Deep topspin. And topspin is like, it's you cannot hit the ball flat. It's trying to break a bad habit. And I remember her getting really frustrated with me. She's like, I don't know how many times we have to do this. I need you to go hit 100 balls and hit them again and hit them again. How many times are you going to play, like, with your dad this week? I need you to play at least 4 times with your dad. I need him to feed you 100 balls. I need you to get it high and deep in the baseline. I want to see marks. I played on clay, hard true, not red clay, hard true, which means, like, you can see that where the ball bounces. She's like, I want to see all the marks, all at the baseline, inside the baseline. Right now. Like, she was a hard ass on me. I mean, and no parent was rescuing me. Nobody was like, you can't talk to my daughter like that. Nobody. I remember going in the bathroom crying. But guys, that style works on me. That style of coaching works on me. I don't break down. I want to, I get angry and I want to do better. But that's me. You know what I'm saying? Like, so other people that may not, again, it could be borderline abuse. It potentially, I think eventually she was asked to let go, but she's just too hard on the kids. I mean, I was 13. I could take it. And I got better. That summer I got really good. That was my best summer. And, was my best summer. But so getting back to this, when is enough and enough? What is appropriate? What's not appropriate? Like, and what do you do about it? So in this case with my son, I'm having a discussion with his dad, and I'm being the mother. I'm like, I think we need to switch coaches. And then his dad's like, he has to learn. He's got to learn. We can't just keep switching when he doesn't like someone. And I'm like, that's a good point. It is. And, my ex-husband, his dad, he dealt with coaches that were assholes. He's like, I remember, like, for basketball, and I remember. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, he's a good point. We cannot coddle our kids, and we cannot, rescue them. I mean, maybe I'm being a softie. Maybe I don't know, maybe because it's a mother-son dynamic where I feel like I have to protect him. And maybe with my daughter, I'm going to admit this. Okay, because I have one of each. Okay, I have a son and a daughter. And I'm willingly admit this because I don't want to say that I'm a perfect parent, because I'm not. And I recognize this, is that I think that I'm softer on my son for some unknown reason, guys, and I'm harder on my daughter. And then I see my ex-husband is softer on his daughter and harder on his son. How crazy is that? What is it about the same sex, same gender relationship? Why are we harder on our own gender when it comes to our kids? Why is the dad such a softie with their daughters? Why? I'm just curious. Why am I a softie with my son? I would like to actually hire like a psychologist to understand, to get to the bottom of this. I want to know why. I want to analyze it, because I just think it's you shouldn't favor. That's the thing when you have two different gender kids. You know what I mean? I mean, gender, whatever. It should be the same. That's what I'm saying, is I have to catch myself. So thankfully I have my ex-husband's like, you know what? He's got to learn. I'm like, yeah. So I went back to my son and I'm like, hey, you're going to stay with the coach. You want me to talk to him? You need to manage this. It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to decide with your kids when there's a coach dynamic or a teacher. Oh my God. There's like with the teacher, my daughter has an advisor, and she's like, I'm like, she's like, I don't really jive with this advisor. It's like, when, as a parent, when do you step in and be like, we got to change this advisor? Honestly, I don't know the answer. I want to know, like, what is the right decision? When do you helicopter and when do you step off? You know what I'm saying? When do you get involved and be like, we got to change this advisor? Jesus. Or when do you say to your kid, you know what? You can't pick and choose who you're going to get for teachers, for coaches, whatever. But again, when do you let the kid advocate for themselves, and when do you step in as a parent, and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate? So the parent-kid dynamic is one thing when it comes to outside people. I mean, oh my God. But I want to talk about so anyway, this is why I'm carrying my sons, because we had an issue. We had an issue about this, and I didn't know. I didn't know what I should do. Like, I still don't know. Hopefully, we'll make the right decision. Hopefully, this is the right decision, and we're not tarnishing my son. Just stay with the coach and just deal with it, and just see how it goes. And he's got to deal with it. I mean, again, watching and making sure it's appropriate. But what is appropriate? What's not appropriate? When is enough? When do you say, you know what, we got to switch coaches? That's an example. So let's talk about the workplace when enough is enough. So it could be woman or man, but and I have numerous examples of what happened to me during the workplace situations. But when your boss, it's either your boss talking to you, a coworker talking to you, and when do you decide that the tone or the treatment is enough, and what do you do about it in the workplace? And how comfortable are you with HR? Like that's really what it is. It's funny because I talked to one of my industry advisors who's a badass. I'm not gonna say who she is, but I think I said this on another podcast. This is really important. This is really important, especially for executives, but for the middle managers who don't have this, I kind of think like middle managers need to have a career coach outside of their company. And this is what I mean. I think especially middle managers, because you're trying to get to that executive level, typically, right? You're trying to climb the corporate ladder. And I was a middle manager in corporate. That's when I left because I became a new mom and there wasn't flexibility. I'm actually going to be talking about this in a women's TEDx soon. Get ready. But I personally think that the middle managers in corporate, male or female, doesn't matter, need to have an outside neutral party career coach to help them navigate their career. I feel like this is an open area in the marketplace that probably needs to be worked on right now. Hello, founders, to address the middle managers. Okay, not a community. Maybe it's a community plus advisory, like career coach advisory, but there is a missing link there that's going to help people navigate their career in corporate, not startups. Well, it could be startups too. Actually, you know what? It could be startups because actually specifically startups don't have the HR capabilities. They're building it, but they're building their culture. And half the time it's like fly by the seat of their pants. You know what I'm saying? And, culture changes in startups very quickly and people end up leaving. One of my other investment industry advisors just left a cannabis company because she really felt welcome and part of the development in the early stages. And once the culture started getting very toxic, male, cannabis, she's like, I'm effing out of here. I'm like, yeah. So she left and now she's at a flower. It's flower deliveries, early stage, before IPO. She goes in before IPO, she helps scale, and then she's out. She's great. She's amazing. She's a badass. Anyway, getting back to this whole thing. She perfect example of when is enough. She started seeing the signs. She started when you're in corporate and you're managing a team of, 50, and everybody loves you and they tell you all your team because you have empathy. So that's why I invest in women, because we bring our whole selves to the table. It's not just like, we bring our whole selves. We care about the entire individual, not just like the work individual, like the family, whatever. And you feel like you're part of a family. That's what you're building. You know what I'm saying? And she saw the hires, the board on this startup was all the original people. And what happens is when you're a founder and you have a great idea and you scale it, and when it gets to a point where it's so big and you're not bringing in people with corporate experience, like larger operations experience, financial experience, and you're not bringing those people in to scale even more. You need to know that if you're the right person and whether you need to take a step down or take a step sideways. And it just wasn't happening. And they were just bringing in all bros. They weren't thinking about diversity. They weren't. And when that happened, she started seeing the writing on the wall. And when you're not happy and you're not supported and you're not, that's when enough is enough. Do you know what I'm saying? When you start seeing repetitive patterns. So I wrote here, and I've got an example for me. When is enough enough? Like, basically, when's your breaking point? When do you make a move? When you're like, I'm out of here. Like, when do you say I'm out of here? In marriages, in relationships, when you have to be an advocate for your kids, in a company, when you're like, I'm out, this is just draining me and this is inappropriate. I wrote, what did I write? What did I say? What is that? I wrote here, it's different for everyone. So everybody has their own tolerance level. Unfortunately, apparently I have a very high tolerance. That's because I was raised in a tough love environment, so I know how to take the hits. That's because I was raised in a tough love environment where nobody quits. If you don't make the soccer team, what are you going to do about it? Cry? Or are you going to actually like pick yourself, stop crying, pick yourself up and get back out there? I was raised in that environment, guys. That's why that's what I do, what I do. That's what I can do, what I do, because nothing, it toughened me up. It was great. Trust me on this, from a career standpoint, from a success track record, great. From a relationship standpoint, terrible. The second thing I wrote, oh yeah, know your breaking point. So like, for example, like in my marriage, again, terrible for relationships, being raised in a tough love environment, because if you're raised in a tough love environment, you think that's normal. So you're taking a lot of hits. Because that's all you know. That's all you know. That's all you know. So you're like, oh, I guess this is how it's supposed to be. I mean, I don't want to go down that spiral, but that rabbit hole. But I will talk about it in my book, and I will talk about it on the stage. But basically, in my case, in that instance for relationships, and this actually relates to marriages, I have a lot of Blaze and Bay members that are going through this right now, that went through this, or they're about to go through it. I mean, a lot of women who are married for 15, 20 years or more that are like, all right, enough is enough. I think in my case, I was so depleted. I was on the brink. This is for me, I'll tell you what happened with me. For me, and this is a little bit, I could be analyzed, like you put me in like a hospital and analyze my brain, because I literally I'm still trying to figure it out. But it's a really interesting thing. You guys somebody can feel free to analyze my brain when I say this. So this is the thing. It's not that behind closed doors, I could take the hits. I could take the talk down to me. I could take the disrespect. I almost felt like, oh, I guess this is normal. Almost, I just got used to it. And I did another episode on this. It doesn't make sense to a lot of you, because a lot of you probably had very healthy relationships. But think about if you were raised in a tough love environment and that's how the tone was in the house. That's what you think is normal. So behind closed doors in the house, if that's how you're spoken to and treated, you're going to think that's normal. So you will live with it for years. I'm going to tell you exactly what the breaking point was. I was at a black tie event for my then husband. It was a private equity event in the city of Chicago. It was very fancy schmancy. There were two events that happened in a row. That was the second one. The first event, I was at 1871 Chicago. I was in their Latinx cohort 2 program, where it was an accelerator incubator-ish. And we basically learned how to pitch, just scale your business. It was actually a great program. I was in the Latinx cohort 2 or 3, I can't remember. And I was asked, it was a black tie event. And I with my cohort, and it was, I forgot what it was, but it was great. And it was honoring Howard Tolman. Hi, Howard. I don't know if you listen to me, but I'm going to be emailing you again. Howard Tolman was a big entrepreneur in Chicago. He collects all this art. He's an amazing guy. And I was asked to present an award for him. And so I was so excited that originally it was just going to be me going with my cohort and not my then husband. Then when I said, hey, I'm going to be asked to, I'm going to be giving this award. I'm going to be getting on stage. Like, will you come with me? And he's like, he didn't really want to come. But he came, and it wasn't a good experience for me with him there. It was just very, he didn't really know my cohort. It wasn't really, I don't want to get into it, but it wasn't a supportive It had never been supportive of my career. Okay. This is was the boiling point. This was the tipping point. Okay. Of it when I decided enough is enough. So everybody was like, "Oh, Renata, you need to be on the stage," and blah, blah, blah. It was great. It was great, and it was awesome. It was a great honor. I felt very honored. And then the next weekend, it was his event. It was a private equity event. All the bankers that he works with, all the mezzanine guys, everybody, and I knew no one. And I remember I was wearing a new red dress that I had just purchased from a Blazing Babes fashion show that we hosted, I don't know, months before. It was a beautiful red off-the-shoulder dress. It was new from Neiman's. I forgot the brand, but it's awesome. It's like a Christmas dress, right? It was like a red dress. So it was right around Thanksgiving. It was like, so I was like, oh, it's festive. And I was at the event. I knew no one. We're at this big table. I actually met this woman. I was talking to all the wives, talking to all the wives, talking to everybody. I was talking to a banker, one guy. I was just networking. I met a lot of people. It was great. And I'm my bubbly self, upbeat, whatever. I was coming out of the bathroom by myself, and this photographer from Sheridan Road Magazine, it's like a high-end exclusive magazine in Chicago, in the North Shore, runs up to me and was like, "Oh my God, can I take a picture of you and your husband? I want to put you in who wore it best." The front part of the magazine. I'm like, of course you guys know me. I'm like, of course, yes. Are you kidding me? I'm like, run over to my then husband and I'm like, "This is so-and-so. She's from Sheridan Road. She wants to put us in who wore it best." And there were all the bankers, with the wives, all standing in a group. And he's like, "Absolutely not." And it was the most publicly humiliating experience. He's like, "I will never do," like, and everyone's like, "Well, come on, you should do it." And he's like rolling his eyes. I felt so hurt because it was public shaming, public disrespect. And that was my tipping point. That was my breaking point. That's the night that I said, "Get upstairs in the bathroom. I need to talk to you. I'm out." I'm like, I don't care. Like, I had no plan. I had no nothing. I just was like, I had taken so much for so long that it was the public shaming. I was okay with everything being behind closed doors. It was the public shaming. And I think that has a lot to do with childhood. I think it has a lot to do with how everything was perceived outside versus what happens inside. I honestly do. So we all have different experiences. And that was my tipping point. Okay. And everybody's different. My story's maybe unique. Maybe my story's not unique. Maybe a lot of people can resonate with my story, but that was my final straw. I'm like, I'm out. Because it was embarrassing and it was just, I felt shame. And then that's when everything just started spiraling. But so the other point I want to say is, and this is a very difficult subject, guys, is if you're in the workplace, like, for example, I'll give a workplace example. This is not really a workplace, but actually relates. Prior to me moving into venture capital, I think it was 2018, when I was kind of in this panic of like, I got to get a job. I'm like, I have to support my kids. I can easily get a CMO job at a Fortune 500 company or like a big company. I'm like, I need a big salary. I'm like, I just kept thinking about dollars and money. I started panicking. So I started interviewing for CMO roles in corporate. And there was one interview that I had a third round interview with a family business. I had never worked for a family, like generations, where it's like the business is passed from generation, like a big company. It could go public. It's a big company, but it's a family run, and it was an industry that I had been in. So it was very easy to me. And even the people who I interviewed with were like, "Oh my God, you could start tomorrow and you could run this place." Like it was just a shoe-in for me. It was a shoe-in. And I had worked in so many different industries. I could literally do it sleeping. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing venture capital. I'm like, oh my God, I've been in all these industries. I can do this. I can run companies. Like, why am I going to do this again? It's just going through the motions where why can't I help multiple people who are running businesses? So that's kind of like the impetus for me doing what I'm doing as an investor. But as an aside, let's get back to this whole interview thing. So I was interviewing with the president, with the CEO of the company. It was the third final round interview. The first question he asked me, so this is like enough is enough, when I'm like, and again, it's a blessing in disguise what happened, because it just completely was like, I'm out of here. I can't do this. And I think this is why a lot of women leave corporate, because they're like, this is just BS. His first question was, what is your personal situation? How does anyone take that question? What is your personal situation? What does that mean? How do you answer that question when you're interviewing? No one else is in the room. How do you answer that question? So I'm going to tell you what happened to me. I was like, you mean where I'm from? I'm like, well, I'm from Boston. I saved his sorry ass. I felt I was trying to actually dig him out of the grave he was digging himself in. Later on, I found out, because I posted this whole thing on Facebook. I posted it. I'm like, after that question, I didn't even care about the rest of the interview. Like, I could have been like, you know what, this is not going to work out. I should have said that. I'm like, I'm out. But I didn't. I was just like, let me see if this guy knows anything. He's idiot. Sorry, he is. I posted this thing on, and one of my friends, actually, one of the Blazing Babes, I didn't even know that she's an HR lawyer. Apparently, if you're interviewing for a company, now this is not a public company, that he couldn't, because it's private, he can do that and get away with it. But I guess she told me that even if it's a private company, I can still go to HR. I can still report it to HR. I mean, and I didn't even want to work there anyway, so I just didn't want to deal with it. I'm like, you know what? But I could have reported it. I didn't know I could, because I have every legal. I could actually sue him. I could still sue him if I want right now for what he said. I should have recorded the conversation. Whatever. But again, that's enough is enough. Like that in that instance, I don't want to work there. Like, that's the climate of the company. Like, I'm not working there. Like, that's the breaking point. So you need to know what your breaking point is, and it's different for everyone. And the other thing I have here is don't let guilt. So people who like want to get divorced, what happens is you're like, I have kids. What about the kids? Well, what about the kids? What are they seeing? What are the parent dynamic? What do they see every day? So you've got an option of staying together and fighting and seeing toxicity, because by the way, your kid's going to mirror that later on in life. So you can make that decision. Research it. It's true. They will think that that's normal, and they will gravitate to that type of relationship if they see that. Okay. Or if you treat your kid like that. If you treat your kid in an abusive way, they're most likely going to be in an abusive relationship later in life. Or if you're abusive to your spouse, they're going to think that's normal. Okay. So you can decide. Okay. And then the other harder part, okay, for women especially, is like, okay, I'll leave. It's terrible. I'm being abused, or this is like toxic, and I'm going to get sick, because you will get sick if you stay in that. You just will. Something's going to happen to you. Okay. I'm just saying, it's inevitable. Do the research. And then the other thing is, I have to get out. So what do you need to do to get out? Well, you have to start from the bottom. If you're not the breadwinner and you're not been working, it's very hard. It's very hard. You literally start from ground zero. I mean, it is. I've done it. It's not an easy task. You have to be very strong. And a lot of women I know actually are in stealth mode. They're planning and prodding. How am I going to do this? I need to get out. But you can't feel guilty you can't let your mind keep going and feel guilt. I got to stay in because of the kids. I mean, really? Your kids, you need to do what's healthy for you and healthy for your kids. Psychologically, emotionally, financially, everything. You need them, and it may be hard, but you got to do it. It's like ripping off the Band-Aid. It's not easy. And I'll probably do a whole session on this. And it's going to be part of my book of like, what are the steps how did I get to how did I find myself in a deep, dark hole? And how did I get to where I am now? But you can't feel guilty. You cannot feel guilty. It's really hard. There's a lot of days of crying, especially with the fan on in a very small bathroom in the fetal position, because that's the only place you can hide so your kids don't see you cry. On the floor in the fetal position, on a cold bathroom floor, crying with the fan on so they don't hear you cry. I did a lot of that. Okay, so what did I write? Oh, you have to be willing to walk away. Okay, so yeah, I mean, that's basically the thing is like you can be scared of the unknown when you hit your breaking point, and a lot of people hit their breaking point and stay in because of fear. And whether it's corporate, like for example, like I need this job, I need the money, I'm going to make this decision based off of fear. You stay in, and it's going to affect you psychologically, emotionally, physically. You're going to be affected. Or this marriage, I need to stay in because of the money. I can't lose all this money. I need this money. I need this money. I'm not going to have any money. You're not? Well, you got to start. You can, but you got to do what's right for you, and it cannot be fear-based. The decisions can't be fear-based. And you have to just be willing to put in the work, to almost be humbled to start from ground zero again. It's really hard. I had to do it. I had to, when I had to look at my budget, I knew how much money I had and it was a finite amount. I had to scale my lifestyle way, way back, way, way, way back, because I was living a very nice, luxurious life, not really luxurious, but decent, with nice cars and nice vacations. And, I knew where I wanted to put my money. I wanted to invest in myself. I wanted to put all my money in conferences. I wanted to put my money in investing, small checks, because I knew eventually where I was going to venture capital. I knew what I had to do. I wanted to sign up for venture capital classes. I put all my money into that. I just didn't drink Starbucks. That's $5,000 a year. That's a small angel check. I sold my jewelry, my diamonds, my diamond ring, my car, my Lexus SUV that's decked out. I sold it. I paid off my student loans that were left to me from Chicago Booth. And, I was responsible. I ended up, driving a Toyota. It didn't matter to me, those things. I knew where I wanted to put my money. It's like it humbles you. It really humbles you. And, a lot of women or men aren't willing to do that. So they stay in. But I knew that there was something better for me, and I knew what my breaking point is. And maybe it's that's the benefit of being in a tough love upbringing, is that I know how to start at the bottom again. I know that I don't have so much pride. I'm going to start crying. Oh my God, I'm going to start crying. I know pride doesn't make me not want to start from the bottom. I don't have, do you know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm okay being on my own, starting from the bottom. And if I'm not the popular one and I don't have everybody behind me, but I know what I'm doing is the right decision for me and for my kids and for my future, even though I'm doing it alone, even though I don't have a rah-rah cheerleader behind me, I knew it's the right decision. It's about your values. It's about your character. It's about what's right. It's about doing it the right way. It's about taking responsibility. It's humiliating, but it's not humiliating. It's humbling. It's humbling to start from the bottom. When you reach your tipping point, when enough is enough, when you can't take any more hits, having humility humility, letting go of the ego, relinquishing your pride, being strong standing alone, and starting from the bottom, it takes a lot of strength. Sometimes we have to do that to rebuild our foundation for our future. Anyway, hopefully that helps, guys. It takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of strength, and I want to do more sessions on this. I'm probably going to do a TEDx on this because it's very hard. It's very hard, and you got to dig in your heels. You got to dig in your heels, and I will probably put it in my book, like what are the steps that I went through when I talk about I wrote chapter 1 already. I think I'm on chapter 3. Chapter 1 talks about waking up in a deep, dark hole, and how I just found myself in this deep, dark hole. I don't even know how I got there. But I'm going to talk about how I got out of that hole and the angels and the champions that helped me and what are the steps I did. Like, what are the strategic and tactical steps that I did to get myself out of a hole that I just I don't even know how I got in. Anyway, I hope that helps. I'm going to do cards right now, but please subscribe to my channel and hear what I have to say. It's really about helping other people overcome adversity and pursuing our purpose. And I think that's a perfect segue because I was interviewing for this job. I'm like, because I was based out of fear. I was making these decisions because I was worried about, because I had my parents' voice in my head thinking you need to be responsible. You need to actually, you have to take care of your kids. So you need money. You don't have any money, so why don't you take an executive job, a CEO, CMO job in corporate or a big company so you can get a big paycheck. You need to be responsible. Go get a job. I had my parents' voice in my head driving me, interviewing for corporate jobs because I knew that they'd have a 401k. I knew I'd get them. I knew I could do the job. I knew it would be easy for me. It would be flexible. Like I could do it easily and still be with my kids. I mean, all these rationales. And after that interview, the writing was on the wall. I'm like, I can't do this again. I've already been here. I need to go after what I'm passionate about. I'm going to start crying. It's riskier. There's a lot more unknown, but I need to believe in myself. Even if my parents were like, when are you going to get a real job? You know how hurtful that is? Recognizing that they're traditional, they come from the traditional background. They're not being mean. I mean, maybe they are. But I had to recognize, and there's a lot of other founders, there's a lot of other entrepreneurs, there's a lot of other people doing things that are not, you don't get paid right away. You have to believe in yourself so much that it's almost like you have to get in a mindset, you're like, I'm already getting paid. Because when you're passionate about what you're doing, when you're passionate about what you're pursuing, you will be financially successful. You just have to believe in yourself. And, I'm getting there. I'm getting there, but I love what I do. I'm passionate about it. I know I'm good at it. And you have to keep believing in yourself. And the right people will support you. And, God willing, your parents will be proud of you one day. I have this book here, Grit. Have you guys read this book? I haven't read it yet, but I bought it during COVID. I read 50 books during COVID and a lot of self-help books. But this one is, and let me get my glasses because I can't see a thing. This is by Angela Duckworth. I'm just going to read this. Psychologists have spent decades searching for the secret of success, but Duckworth is the one who found it. That was a quote by Daniel Gilbert, author of Stumbling on Happiness. So Angela Duckworth, it's on Grit, the power of passion and perseverance. In this must-read book for anyone striving to succeed, pioneering psychologist Angela, she's a psychologist. I want to get my PhD in psychology. Pioneering psychologist Angela Duckworth shows parents, students, educators, athletes, and business people, both seasoned and new, that the secret to outstanding achievement is not talent, but a special blend of passion and persistence she calls grit. Drawing on her own powerful story as the daughter of a scientist who frequently noted her lack of genius, Duckworth, now a celebrated researcher and professor, describes her early eye-opening stints in teaching, business consulting, and neuroscience, which led to the hypothesis that what really drives success is not genius, but a unique combination of passion and long-term perseverance. This is the story of my life. In Grit, she takes readers into the field to visit cadets struggling through their first days at West Point. Oh my God, I played a soccer tournament in high school at West Point, my freshman year. By the way, I just got my high school magazine. I'm in the look inside the class notes. My entire soccer team was there when I was a freshman. Oh my God. She takes the readers in the field to visit cadets struggling through their first days at West Point, teachers working in some of the toughest schools, and young finalists in the National Spelling Bee. She also mines fascinating insights from history and shows what can be gleaned from modern experiments in peak performance. Finally, she shares what she's learned from interviewing dozens of high achievers. Angela Duckworth, PhD, is a 2013 MacArthur Fellow, professor of psychology at the University of Penn, and founder and CEO of Character Lab, a nonprofit whose mission is to advance the science and practice of character development. I got to read this book. She has advised the White House, the World Bank, NBA and NFL teams, and Fortune 500 CEOs. She completed her BA in neurobiology at Harvard, her MS in neuroscience at Oxford, and her PhD in psychology at Penn. You can find her at characterlab.org. You guys I haven't read it yet because I'm in the middle. I have to finish Dave Goggins' book. Can't Hurt Me. I'm still reading it. But this is next up. Get this. All right, let's do cards, and I got to go. I have a lash appointment. Today's my self-care day and a nail appointment. What makes your life feel as if it's moving more slowly? My own procrastination. It's all me. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Does size matter? Oh my God. Oh my God. Is this podcast PG? Oh my God. I wish there was a bunch of girlfriends in this room right now because, boy, we would be laughing and being like, somebody go get a bottle of wine. Yes. I don't know. Does it? I don't know. I don't care. I mean, yeah, maybe I do care. Yeah, I mean, maybe it does. I don't know. Size of your venture capital fund? Not really. Not if you're building a strong foundation for fund one. Have you ever related to a character in a Woody Allen movie? Not really. I don't really like Woody Allen. Sorry. Am I going to get thrown under the bus? I just don't watch any of this. The humor doesn't really. It's a little sexist, don't you think? Isn't he like a little sexist? I don't know. I don't want to throw him under the bus, but I'm not interested. When it's late morning and you're getting hungry, which lunch gets you really excited? You know what, guys? Listen, if you're hungry, you need to have first of all, do not have Traeger foods in your house. Second of all, have a freaking, already a bowl of berries or fruit that you like. Like, I cut up melon. I'm lazy. I don't cut up. I buy melon already cut up and I have a bowl. If I like melon actually has low sugar. Have it already cut up. And when you're hungry, just eat that. You got to have it already prepared. I personally think you should do it Sunday night for the week. So you're you don't want to have an empty thing without healthy stuff because you're going to actually grab the wrong stuff and you're going to regret it later. You're going to feel like shit. Sorry, but you will. Don't eat refined sugars. Get rid of pasta and don't eat any more bread. No, you don't need bread. By the way, if you want a sandwich, wrap it in lettuce. I've got tips. I should just post them. You know what? Have berries, cut up fruit. If you need sugar, I have peanut butter. I mean, I have a lot of it. You can have the lower fat one, whatever, with apples. By the way, if you really are really serious, like my vice or my what's the word? My pleasure of food is guacamole and chips. I love tortilla chips, but when I get really serious, I just, instead of the tortilla chips, I have vegetables. If there are aliens in outer space, what do you think they look like? Like nothing that I think nothing you can see. I think it's almost like, not invisible. It's almost like, dust particles or something, you know. I don't know. That's what I think. You get to call me crazy. What do you think of when you're falling asleep at night? Nothing. I don't have trouble falling asleep. And you want to know why? I'm going to tell you why. Because I am on a routine, an exercise routine and an eating routine, and I go to sleep the same time every night, pretty much. My body has adjusted to this very healthy routine. So I have very good sleep. It's easy for a lot of people when they get older. And that's the other thing is when you eat healthy, when you don't eat carbs, when you eat healthy, and when you don't drink, if you drink every night, if you are going to have trouble going to sleep. And you should not, if you can help it, don't use anything to put you to sleep. Don't use anything to get you to relax and put you to sleep. If you have to be able to train your body to be able to go to sleep on its own. This is the girl power one, and then I gotta go. Oh my God. One of my favorite authors, Emily Dickinson. You want to know the quote? It's beautiful because everyone knows I love the beach and I love the sunrise and the sunset. Bring me the sunset in a cup. Bring me the sunset in a cup. I would love to have a sunset in a cup. Bring me the sunset in a cup. My dream is to be able to enjoy every day. Every day I wake up, I just have to open my door and there's the sunrise. And at the end of the day, I see the sunset. Every day. On the ocean, on the beach. That's my dream. Would you rather see a sunset or a sunrise? I want to see both. I deserve both. I already know it. I'm not going to make a choice. I'm not choosing. I earned both. Later, guys. Follow me and listen every day about pursuing our purpose and overcoming adversity. I'm here to share my story. Eventually, I would like to bring guests on to talk about the subject. Right now, I'm just kicking it off and just sharing what I know. But at the right time, we'll bring in some people and hopefully they can chime in on the subject of the day. Later, guys.